In this video, I'm going to break down these photos and show you how I create soft, natural looking light in the studio. So you'll often hear light referred to as either soft light or hard light. Soft light is usually diffused, it doesn't have a lot of shadows, it's less contrasty, and it just appears softer and more even. Whereas hard light is more direct, it's more contrasty, it creates shadows. Now, one of the principles of lighting is that the larger the light source is, relative to the size of the subject, the softer the light is going to be. So for me to create soft light in a studio setting, I'm going to want to use really large light modifiers to get the light as big as possible relative to the size of my subject. So for this shoot, I used 2 large umbrellas. Umbrellas are a great choice for this because they're indirect. The light bounces into the umbrella and then comes back out, so it's more evenly spread and doesn't have any hot spots. I added diffusion on top, which is going to soften the light even more, and I placed them right next to each other, which is going to basically create one really big light. This could be made even better if I used a scrim, which is basically a large piece of diffusion fabric stretched over a frame. But unfortunately, I didn't have access to one of these, so I just made do of what I had. The next step was lighting from the side. I decided to light from the side to give the effect of the light coming through a large window. The side lighting adds a little bit of dimension and gives a subtle light fall off on the other side of the subject. I could have lit from the front, but I felt this might look a little bit flat, but it's up to you. You can play around and decide what works. You could light from above to give the effect of a skylight, or you could light from the front to give the effect of your subject standing directly in front of the window. The next thing I did was shoot wide open. I shot these images at f2.8, which is going to give them a softer, more natural feel, and it also meant that I could reduce the power of my flash. And then I shot at a slower shutter speed. When working with studio strobes, shooting at a slower shutter speed allows you to let some ambient light into your frame. If you have a window with some natural light in your space, you could shoot at maybe around 1/60th of a second to let some of that natural light in for a subtle fill. We shot these at night, so it didn't really make much difference here, but shooting at a slower shutter speed, letting some of that ambient light come into your frame and blending that with the studio strobes is going to help you have a more natural looking image. And finally, another thing that's really key is bouncing the light. As I said before, natural light bounces everywhere, and to create this look in studio, you want to make sure that those shadows are filled in and everything looks even and soft. Using white surfaces to bounce light is a great way to fill in shadows and reduce contrast. You could use a white wall or some white fabric. In this instance, I used 2 white polyballs on the right to bounce some of that light back onto the backdrop, onto the subject, and reduce the intensity of the shadows. And of course, in post-production, you can play around with highlights and shadows, play around with contrast, maybe use some curves and levels to adjust the photo to your liking. So those are my tips on how to create soft and natural looking light in the studio. If you tried this, let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you follow me to see more of my work, and for more photography content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.